Hey, Chris Lipe here with the isolated vocal tracks for Tool, Vicarious. There's a lot going on, both in terms of performance subtleties, and Maynard is just a master of the subtle vocal performance tweaks that yield amazing results. So we're going to dive into those, and then we're also going to look at some of the production stuff that they do on this song. There's a lot of neat delays and placements, so a lot of fun to get into. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn those notifications on. And if you'd like to go deeper with your own voice, click the link below and join my free voice course. Also, visit chrislipe.com to explore some of my other courses. I go a lot more into production and aggressive vocals in some of the other things that I offer.
I own the TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me. Whatever flavor, it happens to be like you.
Okay, so right off, there's this neat sort of reverb reverse thing at the beginning.
I own the TV.
Typically, what they'll do is they'll reverse the first syllable of a word, and then they'll add a bunch of reverb to it, and then they'll fade that into the attack of the first word. It's a really cool way to work. If you listen real carefully on Bad Motorfinger, they use this at the beginning of Rusty Cage as well. Chris Cornell's vocals right as they come in. Really cool technique. Also, if you're listening to his tone here,
The TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me.
we'll talk about the effects here in a minute, but listen to his delivery.
The TV.
This is not TV. It's also not TV. You know, he's not being terribly aggressive. He's holding back air. And he's using a bit of stage whisper like that, and adding his singing to that. That's engagement above the vocal cords, as I've talked about in other videos.
I own the TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me.
I own the TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me. It's really easy to accidentally get that placed too low and get tickly coffee things. If you are experiencing that, it's too low. You need to direct your attention high. I own the TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me. That approach, I own the TV, I own the TV. Take it to extremes, experiment with your voice. Then, start experimenting with signal chain. There's a nice room reverb in there. Listen. Hey. I own the TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me. Then we've got a nice subtle delay. Hey. And you notice it's fairly narrow.
TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me. What else?
You can hear it on me, and it's band limited. You can hear I've got that set up here. I've got several things going on. In the delay, first of all, I've got some tape saturation on here, or some saturation. Adds a little bit of natural breakup to the delay. And then I've got, this is a stereo delay, but you'll notice right here, I've got it panned into the center because it's not very wide, at least in this section of the song. Still timed to the track itself. And I've got just a little bit of separation. You can see the groove. Now, if I change this groove even more and pan this out, test, test, you can hear the wideness, which we'll hear more in other sections. Watch. Hey. You hear more separation, but I don't want much separation. Hey. Want a little bit? So it sounds wide, and then I'm going to narrow pan it for this section anyway. And then finally, I'm band limiting this delay. So if I turn this down a little bit,
TV, 'cause tragedy thrills me.
And listen to the comparison.
The TV, cause tragedy thrills.
The TV, cause tragedy thrills me. I've got a little bit more feedback or a little bit more repeats on mine than he does.
Whatever flavor, it happens to be like killed by the husband, drowned by the ocean, shot by his own son. She
Now listen to what they did with the delay here.
like killed by the husband, drowned by the ocean.
He's got a talking back there, and he's widened. At first I thought it was just another representation, like they'd done something vocoder or pitch-wise with his voice, but I think he's talking the words, and then they've put a real funky delay on it, because it's so natural sounding. But here they've widened the delay, brought it up, and it actually, if the other delay on his singing was a bit more narrow, like this, test, turn off the high frequencies, a little bit more echoey. They've brought a little bit back in the high end for this section.
By the husband, drowned by the ocean.
Drowned by the ocean, drowned by, and then they've added some saturation to the delay, more saturation, yeah, and they've added some saturation to the main voice. Turn off. Now I'm gonna mumble a little bit, and then I'm gonna turn down the main approach to the vocals and let that delay take over. Really, really neat sound. You can hear it behind the singing.
The husband, drowned by the ocean, shot by his own son. She was the poison in his tea, then kissed him goodbye.
Still so much kiss you goodbye.
Kiss him goodbye.
There's so much high end that comes from the perception of high end that comes from his vocals because of that rasp that he's using.
Until someone dies.
Now that right there sounds like some kind of vocoder pitch shifter at the end. But listen, they actually dial up the tape the saturation.
Kiss him goodbye. That's my kind of story.
Right there.
No fun till someone dies.
You can hear it, if I bring up the saturation like this, someone dies. They have automated this sound up as this line goes.
Yeah, then kiss him goodbye. That's my kind of story. No fun till someone dies.
Someone dies. So cool. All right.
Don't look at me like I am a monster. Frown out your one face, but with the other, stare like a junkie into the
I love the way these harmonies come in. They're wide set, so you hear that narrowness of the sound.
with the other.
That delay happening in the center, not completely in the center, but mostly in the center, and then it leaves room for the harmonies, even just the vocal arrangement.
Like a junkie.
Junkie.
Like a junkie into the TV.
Listen to the difference in approach, right? Junkie. He's much cleaner. He doesn't have that rasp. Those are creating a completely different space for his vocals there.
A junkie into the TV, stare like a zombie. Why oh the mother holds a child?
And then they got a little raspy with the background vocals.
Why oh the mother holds a child? Watches them die.
Neat sort of mod delay happening, although I think some of that is artifacts from the isolation of the vocal tracks, because these aren't completely artifact free, unfortunately.
Hands to the sky crying. Why oh why? 'cause I need to watch things die.
Listen to these background vocals. He gets cleaner and more moany.
Things die. Things
die. Things die. That's not things die. It's very smooth to complement.
Things die.
Things die. Now he's transitioning also right there from his TV to things die. More of his, he's belting. He's still adding compression. He's still adding a little bit of grit, but it's that Maynard forward sound now instead of that raspy stage whispery. It sounds less pent up, although it's still pretty pent up. That's the way he always rolls.
From a distance, vicariously.
Listen to the contrast.
From a distance.
This is part of what makes him so good. From a distance.
Vicarious.
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 Pure background vocals, doubled.
I live while the whole world dies. You all need it and you don't lie.
So cool.
Why can't we just admit it?
Now here we get a neat taste of this whisper into phonation.
Why can't we just admit it?
Why can't? It's not just, very compressed air still. Why can't we just admit it?
Why can't we just admit it?
And then he actually ends, there's this arc. Why can't we just admit it? Why can't we just admit it? Practice arcing that, taking it to extremes.
Why can't we just admit it?
Ooh, and that nice letdown.
Why can't we just admit it?
Admit it.
We won't give pause until the blood is flowing. Neither the brave nor bold, nor brightest the story is told.
You hear that nice band limited narrow delay?
We won't give pause until the blood is flowing.
That's how they opened up the delay.
Blood is flowing. I need to.
They opened up the saturation and the top end of that delay just a little bit. So earlier when we band limited it, the delay a bit more, automated some of that high end delay back, and it helps brighten up the transition into the more layered vocals.
Until the blood is flowing, I need to watch things die from a good safe distance. Vicariously, I live while the whole world dies. You all feel the same, so why can't we just admit it?
I love that transition.
Same, so
almost croonerish here.
So
this is really important to take note of. Maynard's signature tone comes from being diverse within lines, within performances, right? He's got this.
Why can't we just admit it?
Why can't we just admit it? And then he's got this.
Feel the same, so.
That's a different character than why can't we just admit it? And you watch him perform, and he's just all over the place. From gesturing and engagement, and that comes through in his studio recordings. It's not just about technique, it's about exploration and variety.
Blood like rain come down.
Really apparent doubles there.
Jump on grave and ground.
Grave and that sound, but then his doubles are more just combined, changing the character even within the doubles to provide a bit more diverse layering.
Vampire, hot, warrior, born.
Cutting off the words with compression and using that reverse effect, which is being filtered out a little bit with the isolation artifacts here, unfortunately. But you still get the idea. You can still draw some neat things from this. Now that is some neat band limiting. Putting an EQ on the main vocal, test, test, and automating out. Hey, 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 test, 1, 2, 1, 2. Test, 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 test. If I am automating this, and within the DAW, you can control those sorts of things, and you can program it to do it automatically. And that's what we've done. That's what they've done there. Lie, lie, lie. La 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 lie. Now, first I thought this was artifacts, but when I go back and listen to the original, it's there. This is just playing with an EQ, and the phase aspect of an EQ, just like I showed you, this time taking the lows out and messing with a moving EQ, dynamically moving EQ within a phrase. Your desire to believe in angels in the hearts of men. So cool. Put your head on out your hippies and give a listen. Shouldn't have to say it all again. The universe is hostile, so impersonal. Notice how bright the lead vocals are now with that EQ, and muffled the background vocals are. Devoured to survive, so it is. Devoured, so blah 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 da 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 da. It's a difference in performance, but also a difference in EQ placement wise. Devoured to, so it's always been. Nice. And then fading out the main audio, letting the reverb take over. That can also be done with delay, where you trigger it, and let the delay happen. Turn up the feedback on the delay, sort of like this. Tweaking the delay trails to allow them to be a little bit closer together. Bringing up the reverb, bringing down the delay is going to help match the effect a little bit more. But we're not going for exact stuff here. We're going for inspiration in our own stuff based on what we hear out of these isolated tracks. I've done another video on Maynard. Be sure to check that one out. Cover a lot of different snippets from different songs throughout his career. But it was fun to dive into the production aspects, particularly in the saturation and delay, in light of his different approaches that he's using with his singing. Done lots of other videos on lots of other singers, and done many of these isolated track videos. So be sure to search through my In the Style of playlist on the channel. Again, like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and be sure that you've joined my free vocal course if you'd like more help with your vocals. We'll see you for more.